Hey everybody, we are the Eff It Madres. I'm Romy and this is Carla, and we are two moms who say Eff It every week. We got into this by saying Eff It ourselves, and Eff It is a moment of walking into something that is powerful and scary and life-changing. And as moms, we have so much responsibility and pressure, so we're scared to say Eff It sometimes and go into that direction. But it's important that we do, and so many beautiful things come from it. So every week we interview a mom, and she shares her incredible, inspiring Eff It moment with us.
Yes, and today we're doing a flashback to a madre that we interviewed in a past season. She has an inspiring story, as they all do, so we hope you enjoy.
Just Eff It. Hi, I'm Romy, an identity coach helping others who struggle with their sexual identity and families of queer youth find their path of understanding and acceptance.
And I'm Carla, a mom empowerment coach empowering moms to own their new identities and motherhood journeys.
And together we are the EFFing Madres. We are here to invite you guys into stories of some inspiring madres
who have changed their lives through an Eff It moment. So here we go.
Just Eff It.
Well, good morning.
Good morning. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday.
We are the EFFing Madres. Carla just recently moved back home, you guys. So we are doing this while she is now in Los Angeles, California.
Yes, home sweet home. And I was just telling Romy how I've rigged this podcast setup because we're not in our house yet. So I have my mic attached to a cutting board right now with a wire snaking through the door from our house attached to our modem. It's like my daughter's sleeping. The animals are here. Hopefully no one hears anything but me. But we're making
it work.
Yeah,
we make it work. We're moms. This is what we do.
Yeah, this is what we do. But anyway, I'm Carla. This is Romy. We are the Eff It Madres. This is a podcast of madres supporting madres, moms supporting moms through their big life-changing Eff It moments. So we've had women on who have gone through them and are in the midst of them like we are or want them. But basically it's those moments where we just decide to say fuck it and make a huge change in our lives, ultimately for the better, even if it doesn't work out the way that we hoped. It's always usually, from what we've been seeing, for the better, because there's a mindset shift, there's change, growth, and overall just a better move forward. So hopefully it inspires other mamas to take that first step, because that's always the hardest one.
It is. Yes, absolutely. And today on the show, we have Linda Garcia. I recently had shared that I was reading her book. It's called Wealth Warrior. And she is a Latina, which is exciting because we are two Latina girls and we were wanting to have more Latina women on here. She is a mama and she's also she's a writer, which, we love. Carla and I love ourselves some good books, some good female writing. We like empowerment, but this is something I really thought about you because I started her book on Audible as I was driving. I have a lot of fear around money and you are really good at going straight forward and addressing, financial things. We've always had that like kind of difference between us. But I've always learned that you have to kind of like remove that fear to really get a hold of it. And her book has just been this inspiring book about being a girl who didn't come from that, being a Latin woman in like a man's world when it came to like stocks and money and all this stuff in the industry she was growing up in, and like not coming from that. And she really figured it out on her own and like really preaches on like how to do that kind of stuff. And I was like, wow, like not born into it, not having an understanding of it, having almost like nothing to really understanding it. And then writing and teaching other women. So inspiring. So I have absolutely loved her book. She's a very, very busy woman and we are so grateful that she was able to make time and join us. So I'm so excited to talk to her.
I'm super excited. I've been telling my husband, like, we need to get our heads wrapped around like finances and investments and all that sort of stuff. I mean, like, we're not terrible, but we could be better about it. I think the move to Florida definitely was like eye-opening for us in that sense too. So for me this year, a priority is to like fucking learn this shit, because mama wants to make money.
Same. I mean, and it's okay to say that, and it's okay to want that, and it's okay to like have a relationship around it, So
Well, because ultimately my goal's freedom. And
Yeah.
freedom involves, financial security because I want to be able to like go to sleep and make money, like
Yeah.
and be able to spend the time with my family and make choices due to wants versus needs. And I think everyone, I think everyone deep down would love that, at least people I've spoken to.
Yeah. Well, and I really love that there are like women out there teaching us how to do
Yeah.
that because
Yeah.
for so long,
Yeah.
it was always some white dude that was like inspiring us and teaching us about finances. But to have like a Latin woman being like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm like, yes, because we all want to learn. And yes, we say it all the time. We want financial freedom. And if you don't
Yeah.
understand how it works, then you're not going to get that.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah,
So I'm
super
excited.
excited to
Mhm.
pick her brain and see what her
Me
effort
too.
moment was.
Yeah. I don't even know yet. So I'm excited to see how this whole thing started.
All right, we're going to bring her in just a moment.
Okay, everybody, happy Monday. We have Linda Garcia with us, and we are just going to jump right into this. We are so excited that she's here with us. So, Carla, do you want to start?
Yes, Linda. So, when did you decide to just F it and why?
I decided to F it when I wrote my book, Wealth Warrior 8 Steps for Communities of Color to Conquer the Stock Market, the longest title ever. I want to give you context because there was so much fear penetrating me at the time of this book deal, in the sense of like, am I allowed to write a book pertaining to the stock market? I'm not licensed. I'm not old, white, pale, and stale. Like all of these things. Like, is the SEC going to come knocking at my door? Like, legally, I had real questions like, can I do this? And then that started to penetrate like on a logistics level, can I do this? But then it was like emotionally, like, can I take on this responsibility and do I have what it takes? And I had a moment of clarity where I really had to dig deep and understand that this has truly been a calling. It has been a big passion of mine. And F it. Like, I can do this. I'm more than capable of doing it. And if there are some sort of repercussions in the future for doing this, then I'll have to walk through that fire when I do. But I cannot let this opportunity go, and I have to keep trudging forward.
It's so amazing.
So how did you acquire all of this knowledge? Like that it is not taught. It's something that you have to seek out. Like how long, I know this isn't part of the question, but I'm so intrigued by this because it is such an important thing for especially us women and women of color to learn, to get a wrangle on, like we have the capability, we just need the knowledge. So I'm just so curious to know, like, can you tell us the backstory in regards to like how long did it take you to acquire all this knowledge? Like what made you seek it out? I'm just really curious.
Yeah, sure. So I worked at Netflix, and I had a colleague there that would continuously like try to talk to me about the stock market, and I was just like, what the hell does this dude want? Like, I was so annoyed by him because I'm like, first of all, I'm a Latina, like we don't talk about these things. I'm very uncomfortable. I get that this is his area, and I was so annoyed by him, and I think he really started to finally like tap into like how I was feeling emotionally, and he began just continuously educating me over and over throughout, I want to say, like a period of 4 months in 2012. And then he finally just showed me his portfolio and how much money he had made, and it was like over $1 million. And I was just like, you should have started there. Like, why'd you waste all this time, and I just threw myself into the process, became a student. I started to become really obsessed with it. I should also give some context that I did go to school for business and marketing and international business. So there was a part of me that always wanted to understand business. And I think this is the part that is so overlooked about the stock market, is becoming an investor truly throws you into the trenches of business. I always say this, and I'm an educator in the stock market, and I always tell my students, if I would have been a professor, I would have made my students pick a publicly traded company, listen to earnings calls, because you are literally listening to the most quote unquote intelligent people in this country that create our applications, that create all the devices we use, that literally run the way we live. And you get to listen to them for free on a conference call every quarter. So I just became hyper obsessed with the experience. However, it was like a secret. I only shared it with two of my closest girlfriends because I felt like in our communities, like in my community, I'll speak for myself, it's really hard to talk about money, and capitalism is always frowned upon, and I just was afraid to share like yeah, I'm an investor, I hold shares, I know all these things. I felt like it was easier to be like pretend I was stupid, which was such that was like the wrong thing to portray. Only my closest knew. And yeah, and then I just got loud about it. I said F it to that too. I was like, I'm gonna talk about it.
Yeah.
I mean, I love that you're saying F it though, and that's what this is all about. And actually just effing putting yourself out there and being vocal about it, and like not letting those barriers and those walls that we all know are there hold you back from doing this. Because, I started listening to your book, and I have a real fear around financial stuff. I don't have a good relationship with it. Carla knows. I'm sure there's many women that like me, it feels like I'm afraid of it. Here I am in my 40s. I'm a mom, and I'm still just learning to like feel smart enough, to understand money. And hearing your book, like, I'm so glad you said F it and put it out there. And that, my girlfriend Jenny had asked me to like listen to it or read it. And I was like, oh my gosh, like just any of us women, any of us Latin, when any woman, can just have an understanding of this. Like Carla said at the beginning, if you actually make an effort, it is something you have to seek and want to learn.
Yeah, I mean, we're not good with money because we never try to practice and be good with money. It's like saying I'm not good at playing the violin. Well, no, bitch, you've never played it. So like how, you know what I'm saying? And so I think it's like just understanding that that is for the most part many people's starting point, especially if their parents weren't good with money as well. Like there has to be a starting point, and it's really just getting the ball started, and it really starts to revolutionize the way you look at the world overall. It completely opens you up to different experiences. It doesn't mean that as soon as you start learning you're going to be like rich or whatever, but it opens the space for you to head towards wealth. Like that's the door you have to head through. You cannot have a fear of money and also simultaneously want to build generational wealth for your children or desire bigger things. It just doesn't work like that. Like I'm sorry to say, but the fear for money and managing money is what's going to dictate how you navigate your finances.
Yeah. I always hear on the podcast, it's like money psychology. Like that's a big part of it. Like you have to get past all those fears and all those negative, like, as growing up in a Latin family myself too, it's like, you just don't talk about it. You don't share it. Like no one should know anything about it. But it's like hearing you say that, like once you had that knowledge and how revolutionizing it was, it just goes to show like why it's kept, like why it's not taught. Because if we all were taught this, I mean, this would be a totally different world we'd be living in. We'd all hold the power. And I think it's done on purpose.
It absolutely is done on purpose. And I think what we fail to understand as humans, and I guess this is the component of like greed, is that there's this really like deep down belief that there's a limited amount of whatever exists, right? Whatever is good, that it has to be limited. There isn't enough for everyone. And if I start to share, then they'll tap into my supply or my resource. And that is actually not the way it is at all. It's actually not the way it is in the stock market. Like the more people that invest into a specific company, the more valuable the investment becomes. The reason a stock goes up is because more people are buying into that company. And so more money is flooding the company. And from my perspective, I feel like money is the same way. You want to talk about like psychology? I really truly feel it is a true mirror. it's a window into your soul. That's the way I feel about money. And I think it really reflects how much we have, really reflects how we value ourselves. And that is so hard to process. Like when I first came to that place where I met up with that thought, I was like, oh, wow. I didn't realize how little I felt about myself and my capabilities. It wasn't until I understood my personal power that it wasn't dictated by my looks or anything outside of me, the things that I had, the accessories, whatever it was. It's solely dictated by the amount of thoughts that you have in your mind. It is unlimited in that way. There is nobody that can tell your mind, you can't have this idea, you can't conceive this, you can't. The only person that can tell your mind that is you. You are the only person that can do that. And so what I started to realize is like that's a reflection of money. If I don't have money, it's because I'm telling myself that I can't. And the moment I started to think like,
Carla's over there just like wanting to put her hand in the air. Like you're saying words that are speaking to her soul. And I know this. And Linda, I do have to just say, like, as you're speaking, because we're very pumped by your words, as I'm sure everyone listening, this is why I'm so honored, like, to have you. But like, I'm at that crossroad with money where I don't have it because I have never felt I was honestly deserving of it. And like you just said, therapy wise, as I'm in therapy, I've come to a place of, I do have self-love. It is through my self-love journey that I then feel valuable and smart enough and capable for money. And they're so tied together. They're just so intertwined. And I would not have known that because I've never had money. I've struggled with money my whole life, never been able to keep it, because I never felt like I was worthy enough to have it.
Yeah.
Or, like why would someone like me have money? I'm a little girl who was on welfare growing up in Anaheim, California. I watched my parents never have money that was theirs and be in debt. So I have this story that I tell myself. And hearing you say those words, I'm just like, I'm so grateful because so many women need to understand there is a psychological thing to it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. My next question to get into it then is, when you realized all of this, like, what exactly did you do about it to then write this book and become this teacher?
Yeah, so there was a really interesting moment that I had in 2019 where I realized my dependency for money outside of me, which is very normal, right? You're like, oh, I have to have a client or a paycheck, an employer, all the things to allocate money. And then I had this moment where I started to then realize that my mind could conceive an idea that can then create money. Like if we stopped and we look at everything that surrounds the current space that you are in right now, every single item started with a thought. Everything started with a thought. And then that thought was then sold and money was generated from that thought. And so I started to understand, oh my gosh, it's my thoughts that are currency. It's not my actions. How fast can I hustle? How many things can I? It's not the actions. It's an actual thought. And nobody can limit that thought. And I had this moment where I just like sat with that. And I was like, okay, I'm ready to receive like my $1 million idea. I'm ready for that thought. I'm here to like receive it. And I know that my higher self is going to provide this thought for me that's going to make me $1 million. And so I probably spend in and around, I don't know, like 6 months just waiting, like allowing for that idea to come. Like with so much faith, I knew it was coming because I feel like I've had great ideas all the time that I then turn around and like, you can't do that, and like downplay and down talk. And so I was like, I'm not going to do that this time. And then I had this idea to create a workshop on educating, specifically focusing on women of color to become investors. And I decided I'm going to rock with this idea. And I created the course, something that I thought was just going to be a one-time thing. I did not think that this would turn into anything else. I was just following my guide. And I create the course, and then the course sells out, and I'm like, I make thousands of dollars in like hours. And I went to bed and I woke up and I made more thousands of dollars when I looked at my phone, and I was just, I think it was like $20,000. And I was just like, wow, that is my idea. And this is just the beginning. And then I knew that I was going to sell this course over and over and over. And then about 4 months into doing this course, like it would sell out. Like I was sold out 6 months in advance. I would do it live, and I think the audience really gets like connected when I start to just riff. And so I'll riff. There's structure, but I riff, and it just spread like wildfire. And then I had a publicist. I'm sorry, not a publicist, a publisher, and one of the biggest book agents that represents one of like the biggest Latina writers, just Latina writers in the industry. She like represents Isabel Allende and just like these crazy writers. I don't know what she was doing paying attention to me, but she joined the course, brought a publisher, and they attended my course several times, and they were spying on me. And then within like, I want to say 6 months of doing the course over and over, they said, we think you have a book and we want to offer you a book deal. And there was more like, I mean, my idea has turned into $1 million.
But it turned into a book. Ultimately, that's how the book
Mhm.
started, right? Them taking that.
Exactly.
This would lead
Yes.
into, Carla, and I know you want to respond to this because this is very much up your alley. So I'm going to give you time to like give your, and I'm watching your eyes light up. And then the next question is so appropriate for this.
Well, the reason that my eyes lit up is when you said that your mind can conceive of these like profitable ideas, and it's like my husband is a prime example. He's an inventor. He invents things that create him a good amount of money that can continue to create him money years after years, and it's all an idea that comes to him and he acts on it. So like I always tell him I aspire to be a lot like him because he jumps on these ideas, and that's because he believes in them and he believes in his capability to get it done. And so it is 100%. That's why I was like mind blown, because it is, I live with someone that does that. So like I could do it too, you know?
Yes.
So yes, I 100%. That was an amazing point that you did make. We limit ourselves. We stand in our own way. And we do. I think there was a podcast that I heard that said like ideas come to people, but if you don't act on it, that idea will move to someone else and someone else will act on that. So if something comes to you and it's good and it feels good, just go for it. Figure it out. Everybody who has those ideas, like how I built this, or like yourself, you didn't know what you were doing, but you just went with it and you kept learning and you figured it out. Like that's how it just happens. All these things that we own and we use, like it came from that idea and they all figured it out. So we could do it too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And I wanted to ask you in regards to just like, okay, so once you created these courses and these this course that was doing really well and you had this publisher, this publicist come, like what were your emotions at the time when all of this was happening? What were you feeling? Was there self-doubt still, or were you on like, no, this is going to work? Like how were you feeling?
You know, it was a really interesting time because the year before I get these two confused. I had either made 15,000 or 17,000. I did one year 2018 15,000, 1 year 2018 17,000. Those could be reversed. And so I was, running a small business. I had my own podcast and producing events, and that's what I was profiting for the year. Okay. And so I went from that to sometimes making up to $200,000 in a month. And I couldn't conceive, like I was continuously having out of body experiences. I never really stopped. Like I just kept going. Kept going. And I think like when the book finally came, it really sobered me up. Like it really just planted, like it made me stop. like time stopped, because I had been wanting to write a book ever since 2007. I knew that one day I would be a published author, but I was like, really, God, like, you in the stock market, like the stock market, this is how I'm going to write a book. I was really upset about that. And then I started to understand my responsibility that I had for this book, in that I could potentially be the first woman that has written a book on direct shareholder ownership of stock. I could be potentially the first person of color. We don't know of another woman that's written a book like this. We go through libraries and it's literally just me amongst a sea of white men. And so I knew that there was going to be a massive responsibility. So that did sober me up. And I really had to stop and think about what this would bring for the future in terms of my mental health. Like, if this was going to be it, this is going to be it, because this would be a space that I would have to continue to take up. Like, I can't just, it's not that I can't pivot, but I saw the responsibility so big that I was going to have to be captain of this ship. It couldn't be like, okay, bye guys, jumping off board, I'm going to head over here. And so it was really a hard decision in terms of the amount of fear that I felt, like I was mentioning earlier when we started. And then I knew I just had to overcome. Then finally, the fear of not doing it becomes bigger than the fear of doing it.
100%. I think that's such a big one, Carla, right? It's like you have the idea, and then the fear of, like you guys were both saying, like if you don't act on it, and then you watch other people act on theirs, like you, and have it happen, and you're like, fuck, like I could have been moving on something. There is fear in not doing that. It's so inspiring. And since we are, the EFFing Madres, and we are about family and about you being a mother, my next question then would be, what did it do for your family doing all of this? What did it do for you guys as a unit?
Yeah, so I'm a teen mom. I was also a teen mom. I had my first daughter at 14 years old, and then I had my second son at 36 years old. So I really got to see the difference of a child being raised with scarcity and money mindset issues, how much of my scarcity I pushed onto my first daughter, and then how different my son was from his perspective and his thinking. And it was really interesting, because what was beautiful about my daughter is that she got to kind of come on the ride with me. So I'm having to reverse all of the damage that I did to her mental pertaining to money. I got to help, like, first I had to heal myself, right? And then as I'm going through it, I'm healing her as well. So that was really powerful experience for us. We had like a massive breakthrough. I mean, she's 29 years old. She's an entrepreneur. She now owns a school. And I'd like to think that my, like me pushing her and me being by her side and navigating these times with her to have her idea come true and what she's capable of has contributed somewhat to her. My son is just on another level. My son at 3 years old watches a movie of someone robbing someone. It's a kids movie, so it was kids friendly, just for all the moms out there. Disclaimer before
All
I get
freaking
judged.
out, right?
Yeah, exactly. And my son gets very emotional, and he pauses the movie and he says, I feel so bad for him. And I was like, who's he feeling bad for? Like, the person behind the counter, the kids that are hiding under the table. And I was like, who? And he said, the man robbing. And I was like, what? You have empathy towards the man robbing? And I said, why? And he's like, because he's just looking for money and he doesn't know how to make money. And I was like, wow. And then I was like, so how can he make money? And he's like, the stock market. So I think, like, for me, he was 3 years old at the time of this conversation. And so for me, I just thought to myself, you're the men that I'm just like, you were born with this knowledge, you had the privilege. Like, that's what I'm creating in my home, and that's what I want to create, and that makes me soften my experience towards the anger I have towards someone else that may have the privilege and the access. And it's like, no, we're trying to create the privilege and the access for our children. This is the point, and so it's changed the energy and the dynamic in that way. And I'm sure that this is only the very beginning, and I'm excited to see what they do with themselves, how far they get with the knowledge that I've been able to provide.
Man, I don't even know what to say. I'm just like, I feel like obviously with money, and I feel like there is a wave of consciousness when it comes to money literacy. Like, a lot of people are like, I can do this. I actually am capable of doing this. But it's also, we as our generation and younger are becoming so much more emotionally intelligent. And I think it's all tied in, that I do feel like these next generation of kids are going to be way more entrepreneurial. They're going to be like, women especially are going to be stepping into positions, making that sort of money that it was just never seen before. So I think it's all tied together with just like becoming emotionally literate, financially literate. And as we're learning, these kids are learning too. So I only feel like there's going to be a positive change in the world moving forward.
Yes, absolutely.
So it's amazing what you're doing. So keep doing what you're doing. And I am signing up for a course. Your course is still happening, right?
Yes. So we are at capacity.
Dang. Okay. Well, I'm signing up. Can I get on a wait list? Because I'm getting on
yes. Okay. So my next one is going to be in November, the first weekend of November. You get access to it for life, but it does happen like virtually live, and then you get the recording session so that you can watch it at your own convenience. And I'm opening that immediately because there's already people that are like, yeah. Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll talk more about that later. Yeah. But I want to jump into my next question, which is, okay, so now at this point and where you are now, and you've had a lot of success and you are making money, do you have any fears that come up for you now at this point? And also, how do you keep moving forward and not let those fears hold you back? Like, how do you keep moving forward in your effort momentum?
Sure. Listen, yes, I get those fears all the time. All the time. It's that saying, new levels, new devils. That's what it is. And honestly, like, especially as I'm just starting this journey, I'm like at the very beginning of the journey. The vision I'm getting right now is like a fear of heights. Like you're reaching new levels, and it's like, whoa, oh my gosh, the fall is hard and it's fast, and this constant feeling of like I'm constantly having to regulate my emotions, calm myself down, remind me of all the work that I've done previously emotionally, reminding myself like this is okay. If like money starts to decline, I start to freak out. Like, yeah, of course, that happens to me all the time, and it's a continuous practice. I'm just 3 years in, so it's all still very new to me. I've been poor for much longer than I've been doing okay making money. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, it happens all the time, and I just have to really self-regulate.
That new levels, new devils is going to stay with me. That is
I've never heard that before.
And I know.
Yeah.
I'm like, that is going to stick with me because isn't it true, like those fears wherever you are on your religious spectrum, but like the devil, the fears, the negative energy, the negative self-talk wants to hit you every time you overcome something and hit a new high. And the closer you get to your good, it's going to want to tear you down. So that makes sense that the more successful you get, those new fears you don't know that are out there are going to present themselves, right? To try and bring you down from that success. And it's our personal journey and our story that like within ourselves that has to get you past those evil things. You're so inspiring. I want to say this before I go into the next question here. Like, I can't wait. I was saying, like, I just saw the Barbie movie, right? And I was like, I cannot wait to see this with my daughter. She's 7 now. She won't comprehend it at this moment. But for us to be able to share that together is going to be something really amazing. But for us to be able to like read your book together is going to be something really amazing. Like, you've offered something that like as a mom, I can't wait to like be able to share this kind of thing with my daughter.
Thank you for saying that.
You know, she's a little Latin girl, you know, I want her to be raised the way that you're speaking to your children. And I'm so grateful that moms are listening to this, because these are the kind of conversations, these are the things that matter that we have with our kids.
Mhm.
Yes, thank you so much. We actually have a community member that recently, like, she's submerged all the way, and she's built her portfolio, and her husband are doing all the things. They've joined the class, and she had this really incredible question that was really took me, like, I can't wrap my head around it, but she was like, do you think that Wealth Warrior, the course, is going to be available when the kids are 18, because we want to write in our trust that they have to take the course and finish the course before they can have responsibility over their money. And I was like, oh my gosh, like
Yes.
Yeah.
I you know, and yeah, it just
100%. Like, these are the kind of like resources and tools that we don't know are out there. And so getting your voice out there, you speaking, you sharing this, coming on different places like you're doing, like, it allows for other families, other women, other moms to hear from wherever they hear it, because we don't know till we know. I mean, I really truthfully did not know until somebody recommended listening to your book, you know, or reading your book. And I got in the car and I'm like, I know nothing about money. I'm so afraid of money. And I put your book on Audible while I'm driving to my accounts, and the inspiration that I felt and the knowledge you gave me and the power that I was feeling, like, I went straight to Carla and was like, oh my gosh, you're gonna love this. But like, it takes people sharing, you know, and us all getting people out there, which is what we want to do. And I'm just so grateful for you. Like,
thank you.
It is something a lot of parents are going to want to share with their children and our little girls and our little girls of color, you know?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for being an incredible representation for, you know, women of color, because it's true. It's like, it's drilled in our culture that we're not capable and it's not our place. And so thank you for opening it up to us, seeing that we have that power. So thank you. You're making big movement. You're creating a big movement. And so hopefully we can ride your wave too by learning what you have learned.
It's out there for us all to ride, you know? And like she said, it's not for just you. And that's what I love your message. It's accessible to anyone, to all of us. There's room in this world for all of us to have this. This would bring us to the final question. And that would be, what advice would you give to any mom listening right now who is at the moment of having their F it moment?
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, you have to follow your internal guidance system. You have to trust that. That would be my number one advice. And the way you know that your internal guidance system is giving you a message is when you feel fear. A lot of the times when we feel the fear, that's when we pull away and we're like, I'm not going that direction, but that's actually the opposite. So if I could tell you anything, is that everything you want is on the other side of fear. So when you feel that emotion, make sure you trust it, move towards it, and just overcome it, and you will see.
You know, I think I mentioned in a previous podcast that like, we always look at fear as a negative thing, but it's actually not. And you're right. Like, when you are in a moment, or you're in a part of your life where you're just feeling so much fear, it's because something is happening. And so you have the choice to whether you face that fear or you walk away. And so I think that's a really great thing to share with other people out there. If you're feeling immense fear, it's because you're on the verge of something. So try to walk through the door versus keeping it closed. So thank you for saying that, because that's very powerful.
Yeah, thank you so much, Linda. We're so grateful. This is the end, and this is where we'd love for you to share with everybody where they can follow you, sign up for your classes, get your book. Please share with everybody listening.
Awesome. Thank you so much. You can find my book at Barnes & Noble, your local bookstore, Amazon. There's also the Audible version if you'd rather listen to it. I get to narrate it myself. I had to audition for that. I
Really?
also, yeah. I also have a course that is called Wealth Warrior, the course, and it's much more, it's a deeper dive. So the book is a really great companion for whenever you're ready to take the course. I would suggest reading the book. And the course happens quarterly. My next one is going to take place in November and then in January. So definitely tap in with me there. I also have a community of mainly female Latinas that is over 400 women that are on Patreon. So definitely check us out there. We have a sliding scale to join, and we just talk about investments and the stock market and just like abundance mindset as well. So yeah, you can find me on Instagram at In Luz We Trust. That is my business handle. And then my personal handle is Luz, Luz, Warrior.
Ooh,
Amazing.
I know what I'm doing when I'm getting off here.
Yeah. I know. I'm gonna see if my girlfriend and I can sign up for one together, because I'm like, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this is the end where we say
Just F it.